this is Silvia Pavone, investments editor of The Banker, reporting from the IMF World Bank annual meeting in Washington. I'm talking to Mexico's central bank governor, Agustin Carstens. Governor Carstens, thank you for talking to us today.
A pleasure.
This IMF has been a particularly busy IMF, I would say. And of course, the main topic of discussion was the European sovereign debt crisis. What seems to have come out of the discussions, some of the key points that come out of the discussions seem to be that there is a consensus on what the problems are and on the measures to be taken, but that also time is running out. Is this something that you would agree on as well?
Well, I got definitely the sense that the European economies, European countries have done a good diagnosis of the situation. They are working towards providing solutions to the main issues. There is commitment, there is a drive to push these measures forward. And the only thing is that we have to work with the political schedule that is in Europe. No? So meanwhile, there should be a very close coordination between the European Central Bank and the authorities to really give a sense of movement forward, of anchoring expectations in the weeks to come. But we were reassured, there is a lot of determination, so I think that the time will allow authorities to show that they're fulfilling their commitments, and that should contribute towards anchoring the expectations.
You contributed with an opinion piece in the issue of our magazine, The Banker, that is distributed here, and one of the things that you mentioned is also that learning from the Mexican and the Latin American past crisis experience, something that is crucial in these situations is to make sure that the measures taken are credible and that go beyond quick fixes, short-term fixes. Do you think that this is the case for the European problem, that the measures that have been devised are credible?
Well, certainly in some instances they need to reinforce those measures. No? I think they're moving in that direction. What is the most important, as I would say, as an ultimate goal in all the policy making in Europe, is to guarantee a sustainable return to market financing of all the member countries. And for that it's very important for expectations to be anchored, for expectations to be there that the situation will be taken care of. And that, as a matter of fact, will allow the countries to enter into a virtuous cycle, no? Because once they can regain sustainable access to the markets, what seem to be today extremely large spreads will start decreasing, financing costs will reduce, that will generate more financing to the rest of the economy, and growth will come back. So I think that the management of expectation through credible policy actions is the essence of this exercise.
Okay, so you think that everybody's moving towards the right direction?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good. Another key topic, of course, of this IMF is dealing with trying to avoid future financial crises from happening. What do you think should the central bank's role be in this exercise?
Well, many of the central banks in the world, as Mexico is doing, Banco de Mexico is doing, is to contribute in all the debate on the new Basel rules, the new regulation and supervision. And I think many of the central banks of the world are also trying to work together with the rest of the authorities in their countries to establish what I would say macroprudential policy making capabilities. No? That is often done in the context of financial stability councils, basically to try to address all, basically to ensure that there is no gaps in the regulatory processes in the country, and that there is a consistent analysis on what could be macro financial risks, and that there is an appropriate level of coordination among authorities to avoid future crises, no? So I think that that has been a whole new range of activities that central banks are deploying. Oftentimes, given the human capital that central banks have, usually they're in the lead in this process in the countries. So I think that to strengthen financial regulation, to establish macroprudential institutions, together with, of course, dealing with their own mandate, which is managing monetary policy and establish price stability. I mean, so at the agenda of central banks is full.
So the central banks presumably are going to be busier and busier going ahead. You mentioned cooperation. Are you feeling that the regulation coming out of some jurisdictions of the world, such as Europe and the States, has been reaching this level of coordination that is necessary to make sure that there are no gaps left around? And I know that's also one of the issues that some people have been talking about is the potential for regulatory arbitrage to
well,
exist.
precisely to avoid arbitrage, we need a level playing field. I think that a lot progress has been made in the context of the Basel the Basel Committee for Prudential Supervision and Regulation. Precisely the idea to have a broad membership is to avoid regulatory arbitrage. No, the Basel Committee is now moving into something that will imply peer review among countries. Not only, I mean, so to assure that in the implementation process there will not be uneven treatments of different aspects. So there is an important concern in that, and I think that we are moving in the right direction.
In the right direction. So there is a concerted effort amongst various jurisdictions of the world, not just from Europe and US.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Now, something else I wanted to ask you, of course, you represent Mexico in this case, and the Mexican economy has also been strongly linked to the fate of the US economy, and the US economy is not doing so well right now. Although the Mexican economy just started to recover from the first dip. So what are we going to expect? What should we expect from the Mexican economy in the future? And are we going to see an economy that is trying to diversify more and more?
That's for sure. We have to do it. Even though I would say that you know, the U.S. economy, being the largest economy in the world, exerts a tremendous magnetic power on Mexico, no? And I think that for the medium and long term, to be one of the main trading partners of the U.S. is an asset for Mexico. I think that the slowdown will be noticeable in Mexico, but it will not be that dramatic, I think. I don't think it will be a one-to-one reflection on the slowdown. Why? Because Mexico has the capacity to export to other parts of the world, and also because Mexico's industry and manufacturing has been gaining more competitiveness. As a matter of fact, the share of Mexican exports to the U.S. has been increasing through time, and I think that it's an aspect that will continue. So, I mean, yes, we will have a slightly slower growth, but it's not dramatic. In the central bank, we revised our forecast for next year from a growth of around 4% to one of 3.8%. So it doesn't seem to be that dramatic up to now.
And lastly, what about the banking system? Mexico has strong banks, but clearly they are bound to suffer as the whole of the economy.
I don't think they will be suffering that much. As a matter of fact, Mexico has a very strong banking system. They have a capital to asset ratio of around 17%. Mexico adopted many of the new definitions of core capital that is now being promoted through Basel III. So Mexico will be probably one of the first fully compliant countries in the world on Basel III. So I think that the banking system in Mexico, more than being an obstacle or a drag on the growth of the economy, it will be an asset. I think Mexico's banking system is one of the few in the world that has today the capacity to stimulate growth. So we think that that will be an aspect that will work in our favor.
So you're seeing your lenders helping supporting the economy through potentially lending to also smaller companies?
Absolutely. Mexico is still a quite underbanked economy. We have financial stability, we have macro stability, the banks are in good health, as I just mentioned. So I think that there are many opportunities to lend in Mexico, and I think that's something we will see, and that, as a matter of fact, should reflect in a more resilient GDP growth.
Governor Gastens, thank you very much for your comments.
My pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.